had related to it and how his mother had related to it, it forced me to have to see more clearly and understand more deeply what Nick had gone through.
Since we're talking about it, let's watch a clip from the trailer of that movie, Being Charlie. This was posted to YouTube by Rotten Tomatoes Indie YouTube channel. Take a look at it.
Drink.
If you continue to refuse to accept the disease that put you here, you will continue to be a repeat offender.
Don't you mean repeat customer?
I love him.
I don't love him!
No!
You've had plenty of choices, Charlie.
Rehab or jail. You know, quite a wide selection there.
One of us had to keep him safe.
For him or for you?
I can't stay here anymore, okay? This place is like a prison.
It's not even close. But don't worry. If you're not dead, you'll probably end up there anyway.
We know that Nick moved back in on his parents' property in a guest house. That's Rob and Michele Reiner. I took a walk through the Brentwood neighborhood in front of their home. Take a look at this. We're here now in this Brentwood, Los Angeles neighborhood. Now, this area is usually known for being very safe, very swanky, very quiet, and home to many A-list celebrities, but now it is home to a brutal crime scene. That's because over my back shoulder here, right over these gates, right over this tall shrubbery, that is the home where Rob and Michele Reiner were found stabbed to death. And the accused killer, their own 32-year-old son, Nick Reiner. Now, for our loyal Court TV viewers that have been with us for some years now, you know this neighborhood from the trial of last century, the murder trial against O.J. Simpson. Now, we're only about 1.5 miles away from where Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were found murdered in 1994. Now, if you have a look around this neighborhood, you look down the street in either direction, you see that this neighborhood is pretty private. There's gates on every home, there's access codes to get into every gate, and there's tall bushes blocking the view from the street of people coming through here, through the neighborhood. So these homes are not easily accessible by just anyone. But again, in the hours following those stabbings, the Reiner son, Nick Reiner, was arrested, now charged with a crime that has shaken this community to its core.
Thomas, we're going to get a break here. We're still waiting for that feed to come in from the arraignment of Nick Reiner. As soon as we get it, we'll play it out. Stay with us. You're watching Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
School shooting that broke hearts around the country and broke trust with law enforcement.
Now, the officer sworn to protect those students faces a jury.
The Uvalde school massacre trial. Live coverage today on Court TV. 8 hours of back-to-back true crime cases every Saturday.
This is crazy.
On America's original true crime obsession. 48 hours on Court TV. Saturday starting at 4/3 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. As we speak, in the city of Los Angeles, Nick Reiner is being arraigned. We saw him in court a few weeks ago before the new year, and the arraignment was delayed. Alan Jackson said he needed more time to discuss with his client the situation and get his head around the situation. Nick Reiner at that point appeared in a bulletproof vest in the back behind glass, and now we are being told he's off suicide watch. So we will be interested to see how he appears today, during today's appearance. The judge in this case has said no to live streaming. So basically, as soon as the hearing is over, and arraignments don't take very long, then we will get it fed to us per the court's rules, and we'll play it out live. As we're getting it, you'll see it. Also, we are expecting potentially Alan Jackson and the defense team to make a few statements. Whether or not the state of California, the prosecution will, we don't know, but we're ready for that as well. The microphones are all set up outside of the courthouse there in Los Angeles, in downtown Los Angeles. So we're standing by, and we're waiting. As soon as we get word that the feed's coming in, we will share it with you. Krista Ramey is still with us. This is one of those cases where it's not a whodunit, and it's all about what happens. What's the best outcome from, I guess, everybody's perspective in this case, but specifically the defense? Because you're not going to get out of this. He brutally murdered his parents.
You know, and I think that that's such a good question, Ted. What's the best that you get that comes out of this? And I think that it's for the whole family, you know, because it's their brother is who did this, you know, and so they love their brother. They probably want to protect him. They're probably helping him with his defense with Alan Jackson. I think that he needs help, obviously, a lot of it, has his whole life and probably hasn't gotten the right kind of help up until now. Maybe this will be that time for him. I think that a mental institution is probably the best place that they can hope for their brother. I think that prison's not really for him. It's interesting, the clip that you showed from the movie on Rotten Tomatoes, that Rotten Tomatoes had posted, one of the things that was said to the young man that was an addict was, you know, this isn't prison, but if you keep this up, you will know what that is. You know, and now here Nick Reiner is, you know, in the Twin Towers, which is not a very pleasant place to be. So I think that the best place for him, yes, is probably treatment and getting that kind of help that he needs, and keeping him out of prison is the goal.
So many people suffer from addiction and mental illness, and they are in prison. And, you know, someone might think, oh, great, Nick Reiner, who has access to the money that it takes to hire Alan Jackson, who has access and connections inside the DA's office. Does this and will this, as it plays out over likely the next years or two, year or two, will it sort of shine a light on the reality of our jails, our mental institutions to some degree?
You know, let's hope so, right? I think that would be a good thing, because they're not good out here. People aren't getting help they need. I think that this was a trend that started back in the 80s with very well-meaning folks at the ACLU that don't want to institutionalize people because it's, locking people up without, a criminal aspect to it. But some people need to be forced to get help, and some people need better help than they're getting. And Nick Reiner had access to a lot of money and still couldn't get the right kind of help, obviously. So, I think that the mental health system has come a long way in our country. I think that we treat it more now like health issues, not just mental health, but it's a part of the whole body. And I think that you are seeing changes that make that better. But long way to go. We have a long way to go. And I think that cases like this help shine a light, but they also show a disparity between what the rich and the poor can get in terms of better access to better lawyers, with better connections, as you said. So that's also a light that will get shown on a case like this, because a lot of addicts commit crimes that have dual diagnoses and have a lot of problems, and they don't get this kind of special treatment, is the argument, right?
Yeah, and he hasn't gotten special treatment yet, and I think that Mr. Hochman, the DA in Los Angeles, would argue that he's not going to get special treatment, and that'll be the push, the Alan Jackson fact. What does Alan Jackson buy you? You know, how different would this look if Nick Reiner were being represented by let's say, Philip Dubé, a public defender?
Well, be well served by having Philip Dubé represent him. I know, and from my, I have a lot of colleagues that spent a long part of their career at the DA's office before moving over to civil, and they all are good friends with Alan. And those of us on the civil side have run up against him, in cases where he maybe is defending a criminal sex offender. He's well known in our community and well liked. And he's ruthless, he's tough, he's a very, very good lawyer. So, is he the only one that is capable of any of that? Absolutely not. There's a lot of other fine lawyers, as you mentioned, Philip Dubé out there and others, that are also perfectly capable of that and that have those relationships. But there is an Alan Jackson factor. He's high profile. That could have some pushback as well with Hochman in his office, where they're going to be doing their level best to not show special treatment to Alan Jackson or this team.
Yeah. All right, Krista, thank you. We're going to get a break. When we come back, we'll monitor Reiner, also Texas. Stay with us. Welcome back to Court TV Live, along with Kelly Craft. I'm Ted Rollins. Good to be with you on this Wednesday. We're still waiting for that arraignment of Nick Reiner to be fed to us out of Los Angeles. So while we wait, we're going to begin the hour in Corpus Christi, Texas, where a possible mistrial could, big could there, be declared in the trial for the former Uvalde school officer, Adrian Gonzalez.
Day one of the trial ended yesterday with former Robb Elementary School teacher Stephanie Hale testifying about seeing the gunman heading toward the school.
But the defense abruptly stopped Hale's testimony when she started to share the fact that the shooter was wearing black and had long hair and placed Gonzalez near the shooter. Information they said they did not have previously, caught him off guard, and it wasn't shared by prosecutors.
Here to help break it all down for us is Court TV Crime and Justice correspondent Matt Johnson. Matt, talk to us about what happened here.
Ted, Kelly, a huge day ahead. It all comes down to this. The jury was sent home on day one. Trial on pause today after that bombshell testimony that could lead to a mistrial. Happening today, we could expect some heated arguments outside the jury's presence about that testimony concerning the teacher, Stephanie Hale, who described seeing the gunman, his position at Robb Elementary School in relation to this defendant, Officer Adrian Gonzalez. The defense claims that this was a change in her testimony, a big, big change, and they call it unfair, and they say that this is trial by ambush.
During that interview, 4 days after this happened, you never told Ranger Benson that you had seen anybody matching the description of black, wearing all black and long hair.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember.
Your Honor, and so based on that, we have never gotten any notice from the prosecution, and that is clearly an inconsistent statement with the statement that she gave. The prosecution has never provided us. This is clear under Brady. It's clear under Michael Morton that if this is the first time that I'm hearing of this in a trial of this magnitude is when she testified on the stand about it. And so, if she did report these things to the prosecution, we were entitled to that to prepare for this. And this is a trial by ambush.
Again, the defense claiming trial by ambush and claiming a Brady violation. Look at your screen. Here it is out of the textbook. When the prosecution in a criminal case fails to disclose evidence that is favorable to the defense and could be material to the outcome of the case, the violation could lead to a mistrial. Again, arguments outside the jury's presence today at 2:30.
Afterwards, the defense spoke a little bit about this. It is a huge case, not only for people across the country, but mainly in Texas. This is something that rocked everyone's world when it happened. So outside the courthouse, what did the defense have to say?
Yeah, and it still rocks everybody in that community. It was really an emotional day, just day one. So outside the courthouse, the defense doubling down, calling it a violation, trial by ambush, and they explained how this changes their case.
But primarily, the witness testified that she saw the shooter, saw a person matching the description of the shooter on the south side of the building, which is where we put an opening statement we talked about and where we all agree that Adrian drove to when he thought that he was encountering the shooter or somebody with the shooter. He drove there, and that's what half the opening statement. But they, having this witness who has never said that before to us, and only to them, that's what was shocking to us. That does affect our trial.
Location is a critical issue in the case, and what they're alleging Adrian saw or didn't see. But then the problem that's more troubling is the fact that she told them in December, and they've acknowledged that.
So the defense was then asked about what remedies that the judge may consider, explaining that to the reporters that were present. And they also spoke about the case just in general, to the community, to your point, Ted, and what it means to make sure they get it right.
We only get one shot at this. I mean, this is not a game to us. And Adrian's family and the families of Uvalde, they want closure too, and they deserve to know all the truth. This is not just about Adrian, it's about everybody, it's about that community. So it matters. I mean, this is a big deal. And so we're going to go back and we're going to strategize and talk and compare the information the judge requested from us. And we'll make our arguments tomorrow, and the judge the judge when we do hate.
Just legally, what are the other remedies? Just for those.
Well, the judge can admonish them to excluding evidence, to be creative with a remedy to the mistrial.
Ending that news gaggle by saying that they're going to be weighing their options all night long. We can expect that they did that probably this morning as well with the defendant. They also have to submit their defense strategy to the judge, and the judge is going to evaluate just how badly their defense is impacted, if at all, by that shocking testimony.
All right, Matt Johnson, thank you. Matt will be with us throughout the day, and we'll be glued to that 2:30 is what they're expected to get underway to convene there. We'll be glued to that hearing. Let's bring in our guest for the hour in studio. It's criminal defense attorney Murray Pereira. So great to have you here.
Nice to be here.
What's your take? What should happen?
I think I need to hear more, because what they're saying is the witness said something that they weren't aware of, and that could damage their case. Now, I think they have to explain to the judge, what does the jurors hearing what this witness says, how does it impact their defense theory? What is their defense theory, and how does this throw a wrench in it? You know, a mistrial is the most extreme remedy for a Brady violation. So they really have to show that there's no way, after those words came out of her mouth, that any little instruction to say, oh, disregard what was said, is going to fix it. And I don't know if they've reached that bar just yet. And I really don't think they needed to be outside giving a press conference.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely heard what they had to say there and talking about the potential remedies here. One, he mentioned the mistrial. Another one saying that the judge could admonish the jury. But, Marie, you know, from a defense counsel standpoint, if you're sitting there during trial, a lot of things are going on back and forth, and then all of a sudden you're hearing this witness start talking about things that you didn't know about, things that she hadn't said before, things that are inconsistent with statements that were brought to your attention previously when you've taken a look at the discovery. Red flags go off, bells go off.
Red flags, yes, but let me play, you know, prosecution advocate. It doesn't mean that every red flag is enough to do a mistrial, right? Sure. Because we don't know. Could you just fix it through your cross-examination and your strategy and just show that, okay, you said this to the troopers and your report, but you're saying something different now? And let the jurors assess the credibility of the witness. That's what a cross-examination is for. So do your job, fix what damage you feel her testimony caused, and it doesn't rise to the level of a mistrial.
There's a good chance that this afternoon at 2:30, when they're back in court, that the defense may not want a mistrial, because they'll have now the evening to really evaluate where they were, how did their openings go, how did jury selection go, do they love this jury? Careful what you wish for. Yes, you might be able to get a mistrial, but they're rolling the dice on some level. Are they not? In getting one, it may not be advantageous, because I'll tell you, those opening statements, they were very short on the state side and very long, and the defense laid out their case. Giving the state another opportunity may not work in their advantage.
That's why you get paid the big bucks. I agree with you. And that's why I was saying not every misstep is a misstep, because it gives them the opportunity to assail the word of this witness, to say you are mad about what happened, you're hurt that all of these little second graders were hurt, and you want someone to pay. So now you're coming in and you're sprinkling more than what was present when you gave your first statement, and you're not a good witness. Just walk away with that. That's a win. Because if it impacts her testimony and her credibility, just leave it at that. Through your cross, she gave more information, and it makes her look like she could be embellishing so that she can win the prosecution's case. That's enough to create reasonable doubt as to her testimony. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Defense counsel could really use that to their advantage, attacking the credibility of her. We'll have to see what happens.
Without being, because let's face it, she's a very sympathetic human being. That way, it's not them, it's the judge. Yes. It's a perfect scenario. We'll see. We're going to get a break. We're still waiting for the Nick Reiner arraignment to be fed to us from Los Angeles. As soon as that is in, that will be task number 1. But we also have this great case going out in Washington State. It's a fire chief accused of murdering his wife. We'll watch the opening statements next.
I'm going to ask you a lot of intensely personal questions.
From the crime scene to the courtroom, this is Victim to Verdict.
Everyone has this heightened sense of anticipation.
What a day here at Court TV.
Fireworks both inside and outside the courthouse.
Let the cameras roll.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Again, we are awaiting the Nick Reiner arraignment. The court has ruled that we can't show it to you live, but as soon as it's over, then it'll be fed out, and then we'll be able to watch it. We're also expecting some statements from Alan Jackson outside the courthouse there in Los Angeles. But while we wait, we're going to turn our attention to the state of Washington for the cheating fire chief murder trial.
This is an interesting one. Defendant Kevin West, he is accused of strangling his wife. Her name's Marcy. Accused of strangling her to death in January of 2024.
Prosecutors say that West initially told police that his wife, they had a great marriage. And then text messages, though, would reveal that he was having an affair. And she had plans of moving out the very day that she died.
Let's go into court now for the start of the state's opening statements.
This case did not begin as a homicide investigation. But what matters is not how this case began, but how the truth ultimately emerged. At 4:27 a.m., about 2 years ago to the day today, the defendant, Kevin West, called 911. He alerted dispatchers that the wife is having a seizure and moving her to her side and getting her off the bed safely. He alerts them on the call. She's now no longer breathing. 911 dispatchers notified the Camas Washougal Police Department instantaneously. The evidence will show that the Camas Washougal Fire Department arrives on scene within minutes. The evidence will show that when the Camas Washougal Fire Department arrives on scene, they have the equipment, they have the training, and they have the knowledge to face whatever is on the other side of that door, whether it be a fire or to save a loved one. And in this case, they were attempting life-saving measures on Marcel Mulder West, known in life as Marcy and known throughout this trial as Marcy. The first responders trusted what they were told, because it wasn't an unknown caller. It was their battalion chief. Someone that was a friend, someone that they trusted. And most importantly, someone who's trained in life-saving measures. The evidence will show the time of death for Marcel West was called at 5:11 in the morning. The defendant told all those on scene, we had a good day. We had Chinese food, we watched a few movies. In some accounts, he includes that they had made love that night. She had taken some ibuprofen, had a headache, threw up. She and I went to bed around 11:30. He wakes up to the dog whimpering, sees the wife sneezing. She has no history of seizures. She has no medical history. Now, this is what he tells to Camas Washougal Fire Department, his coworkers and friends, and Washougal Police Department, an agency that works very closely with the Camas Washougal Fire Department. And for a while, that explanation held. Given Marcy's age and no known issues with her health, the medical examiner took custody of the body. Now, you will hear that the initial examination, that there are several different types of examinations that can occur at the medical examiner's office. The medical examiner notes injuries, takes things together. But she also notes that they are getting information from trained medical personnel. A fire battalion chief with paramedic training of over 20 years. She's certainly not ready to say anything is suspicious or put what is going to be the result. And you also hear that the West family quickly arranged for Marcella West to be transported to Straub's funeral home. So as the body is leaving to go to Straub's funeral home, the medical examiner receives information from several sources asking them to look into this, to look into it further. So upon bringing the body back, a second examination, more thorough examination is done. Now this examination will cut further onto the neck and cut further onto the head. Something that from the testimony you will hear damages the face. She peels back more and notices injuries. Dr. Burt will testify that there was damage to the carotid sheath that covers your carotid arteries. There was damage and hemorrhaging to the esophagus. There was bilateral bruising behind the ears. And that when the scalp was peeled back, there was a large contusion between the skull and the scalp. Those constellation of injuries, including other injuries that Dr. Burt will testify to, are those of a vascular strangulation. Now, there are two ways in the testimony and evidence that you will hear that someone can be strangled. There's a strangulation that cuts off the airways, and a type of strangulation, a vascular strangulation, that cuts off the blood's access to the brain. We anticipate the evidence and testimony will show that the pressure on the carotids does not take much time for someone to pass out. However, it will take minutes in order for that person to die. Now, due to the appearance of impropriety, the investigation is handed off to the Clark County Sheriff's Office. It was then investigated by major crimes detectives Dean Kelson and Lawrence Zapata. Now, they interviewed the defendant on January 23rd, 2024, and he tells them the same story. A happy day, happy marriage, some bumps down the road here or there, but it's never going to leave Marcy. I love Marcy, she's a great mom. Now, the evidence will show at that time detectives took Marcy's phone and they began the investigation of the forensics surrounding the scene, particularly phone forensics. Marcy's phone will show that her last search was at 12:09 a.m. on January 8th, the mother of the bride dresses. The evidence will show that when the defendant's phone was reviewed, there were some text messages as well. Text messages that were in direct contrast from the happy story that he was telling everyone. On January 7th, the day before Marcy's death, he texted his mistress's mother. Just felt the need to send you a message. Today has been a tough day. I keep thinking about how happy I was yesterday and how we laughed. I want you to know how spiritually connected Cynthia and I are. We have something so incredibly special. Yesterday, talking with you, her, and I together felt so great. I can't explain the familiarity and love I have for both of you. You are my family, and I feel like we have always been. Thank you for your love and support. I will never be able to express how much that means to me. I love Cynthia to tears and will always give her my all. Love you, Mom. Please know how strong we are and that nothing will ever come between us. Now, after he met with Clark County Sheriff's officers, the testimony and evidence and phone data will show that he deleted those messages. He deleted messages that he had sent to others that said, I'm going to leave Marcy on January 8th. I know where I stand. He deleted those messages on January 26th, 3 days after he had met with Clark County Sheriff's officers. Members of the jury, you will also hear of financial strain. But you as jurors do not have to consider all of these things in isolation. You will be instructed that you can use your common sense. And we all know that things don't occur in a vacuum. People experience financial strain. People have affairs. People talk about leaving. Those are the realities of life and could perhaps be coincidences. But in the investigation of the death of Marcel West, the timing will matter. The convergence will matter. And you as the jury at the end of this trial will be asked to apply your common sense and see whether or not all of these things together make sense. The evidence will show that the defendant's story of what happens does not hold up to investigative scrutiny. It does not hold up to medical testimony. You will also see, in addition to this, that people, yes, do grieve differently. There will be evidence and photographs that you will see that in the days leading after her death, a photo of the two of them that once hung proudly outside or in front of the door is taken down and is put behind a couch. The room that she once occupied, the room she died in, cleared of furniture, mattress, belongings, everything empty. Her very existence in his phone deleted, her contact information deleted, her text messages deleted. Members of the jury, this is not a case about questioning the integrity of first responders. They run towards danger and help those when they're most vulnerable, when everyone else is running out. And that trust within the community is rightfully earned. But this is a case about the actions of one man in his personal life who just happens to be a battalion chief. Members of the jury, when you evaluate the phone data, the testimony of witnesses, the medical testimony, the photographs, everything in conjunction, my colleague Jessica Smith will ask that you find the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree. Thank you.
Okay, Prosecutor Kelly Ryan delivering the opening statement for the state of Washington. Very calm and deliberate, factual with her presentation. We should note Nick Reiner, we're waiting for that arraignment in Los Angeles, but we are hearing, TMZ is reporting that Alan Jackson is withdrawing from the case and has announced that we'll monitor that. We're expecting some words outside the courthouse there in Los Angeles.
Yeah, this is happening now as we speak. So
yeah. Marie Pereira with us here. I guess, well, let's start with the breaking news with Alan Jackson withdrawing from the Nick Reiner case, then we'll talk about this Washington. He's a very high-profile person. What's your reaction to that? In terms of, he's there for the initial appearance and now withdrawing. What do you think maybe behind the scenes happened?
It can't be a good thing. Maybe it's related to him being compensated. Maybe it's related to him having a different defense theory of the case, that maybe the family members who most likely, I feel, tried to retain him don't agree. There's a disagreement in theory or mode of payment. But it can't be a good thing, because the way he popped out in front of the courthouse and he was like, Alan Jackson, bam, 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 don't jump to conclusions. My client is innocent until proven guilty. This is complicated. And then now you're not on the case anymore. Bro, it's not a good look at all.
I mean, we'll find out eventually, maybe some reasons why. I mean, Marie, could it be just his caseload? He has a lot of high-profile cases that are taking place right now, Alan Jackson. Could it be caseload management? No. Okay.
I want to say no. It's nothing to do with caseload. It has to do with money, theory of the case, and how the case is going to be handled. And maybe there was a disagreement with that. But he knew what cases he had when he took on the case.
Yeah, and it may be that he has spoken to Nick and there's a disagreement there in terms of how to proceed. And if there's the initial facts against Nick Reiner seem to be overwhelming in terms of the commission of the murders. No one's denying that. And maybe he is saying, listen, I'm going to save your family a lot of cash. You can get just as good a help given the factual circumstances and maybe a disagreement, to your point, on how we should proceed. You don't need me. That could be a fact. That could play out.
It could, but I don't think it would be as simple as that, because the fact that he's Alan Jackson, even if it is a case that is a slam dunk for prosecution, his skills could be enough to to maybe convince a juror otherwise. Maybe they could have gone with, you know, not guilty by reason of insanity, mental defect, or something like that. Something had to be more specific than that. I don't think it's as simple as, oh, your case is so dead, nobody can help save you. Just hire someone fresh out of law school, because the outcome is going to be the same.
Well,
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that's what
happened.
happened.
What if Nick is saying, I'm not pleading not guilty by reason of insanity?
Then there's a problem with the client and the theory of the case that the skilled attorney is recommending. We don't know that. We don't even know if Nick is the one who hired Alan Jackson. Maybe he's like, you know what? Let me pick the attorney, not you guys who are paying for it. Because it's hard for me to believe that Nick had the money to pay for the likes of someone with an Alan Jackson reputation.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see exactly, you know, maybe the reasons or what more we find out about this story, because we'll be getting updates. So why don't we just switch gears, go back to that opening statement that we just were listening to in the state of Washington. You know, we heard the prosecutor there really laying out, as Ted was mentioning, the facts of the case, talking about how he, the defendant, was saying they had a happy marriage, a normal day. He went in and he got some food, and the next thing you know, his wife is having a seizure. That's what he was saying, prosecutor laying that out. What do you think of that opening statement, Marie?
I think the opening statement was effective. She laid down all the facts and what they intended to prove. And by now, with the opening statement, we know that it's a circumstantial case, because it's not a case where he's saying somebody else did it. He's saying she died because of a seizure. And they're saying no, because the physical evidence shows that there was blunt force trauma to the neck, there was asphyxia, oxygen deprivation, intentional by the likes of you, because there are fingerprints underneath her neck and bruising behind her ears, which show me big man hands who had a sneaky link, Ted.
I knew
For
that
20
was coming
years,
out.
he was dating this woman named
did they say
Cynthia
20
Ward.
years? Wow.
20 years he had a sneaky link.
That's not so sneaky.
Not so sneaky, and it was
She
all
found
up
out.
in his phone. Don't get me started, because you know how I am about the sneaky link situation.
Yeah, and she had found out, it seems as though the boxes are being checked by the state.
Phones don't lie. He was even talking to the sneaky link's mom, saying, we have such a great relationship. He took her photo down, the poor victim. Come on. You see, now this is what happens, as mad as I am.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see what the defense comes up with in their opening. We'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, we're going to squeeze in a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. You're watching Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice.
Welcome back to Court TV Live, along with Kelly Craft and Ted Rollins. If you're just joining us, Nick Reiner appearing in a courtroom in Los Angeles for his arraignment, and we expected that he would be alongside Alan Jackson, his attorney, who was there the first court appearance. But according to TMZ, Alan Jackson has withdrawn from this case, and the family apparently is going to be releasing a statement in terms of why, after this proceeding is over, still going on there at the courthouse in downtown LA.
Still with us, Marie Pereira, criminal defense attorney. Marie, just taking a look at just some of the things that are online about this. This is breaking news. And so Alan Jackson had come out and he was going to be representing Nick. We were expecting Nick Reiner to enter a plea today, but now we're hearing this is, you know, a major change in the case.
I'm not surprised, because when you hire someone, they go to court, you file a notice of appearance. That notice says that person's going to be your attorney. Now, if the person had a retainer agreement and you can't pay up, nobody works for free. He has the right to go to court and be officially withdrawn from the case. I'm surprised that it was that easy, because in my world, as a defense attorney, once you do the notice of appearance, you say, this is my client. So for them to just allow him to just get off the case like that, without providing the court with an explanation, is surprising to me, because in any normal situation, once you file a notice of appearance and you put your name on that defendant's name with the docket number, you really have to have a reason on the record, not just I'm withdrawing from the case. Yeah, it has to be more than that.
Presumably that's what's going on right now, we're at a disadvantage. We're getting tidbits from TMZ, which, you know, it's frankly very reliable in terms of courts, and especially Los Angeles. They have that lockdown. But we don't know everything yet. We'll find out soon enough. Let's talk about the case in general. He murdered his parents. I mean, it's very evident. The evidence is there. No one is saying that he didn't, right? You know, even from the very beginning here, even Alan Jackson was talking more generically about what's next. And so, what is next? What should happen to Nick Reiner? I mean, if he wasn't Nick Reiner, if he was Nick Ferguson from LA, whose parents were no names, he'd be sitting in the Twin Towers, but he'd be on his way to either San Quentin or, you know, Mule Creek.
Well, whoever he is and whatever his last name is, he still has the presumption of innocence. So he's innocent until proven guilty with very little reasonable doubt, right? That hasn't happened yet. So I want to say, when you say, you know, he murdered his parents, we're assuming he murdered his parents, but there's still
only because of the amount of seeming evidence that of course, he's innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
But Nick Reiner murdered his parents. Let's be honest. You know.
There still could be a defense, though, because sometimes there are homicides that are justified. We don't know enough about the case. We're going according to what we hear. We don't know the exact results from the autopsies. We hear there were throats slashed. We hear people were stabbed in bed. We hear that there wasn't like a fight. It seemed more like an execution. That's what we're hearing. But until the case goes to trial and all of the evidence is released through discovery between defense and prosecution, we don't know. We don't know if there is a defense of he didn't understand what he was doing, that he's maybe not guilty by reason of insanity. He didn't have the ability to form judgment between right and wrong at the time. Maybe he was so high on drugs that he was impaired, because it's on record that he struggled with substance abuse. Not to say that in and of itself it would get him off the hook, but there are lesser charges when you do it and you don't know what you're doing, or you were impaired by drugs. Nothing has played out yet. So whether or not he's Nick Reiner or Nick Jones, he still enjoys the presumption of innocence, and they still have to prove their case against him, all of the elements beyond a reasonable doubt.
And we keep getting more and more updates. So really what now TMZ is saying, their sources are saying that a public defender is going to step in.
Okay.
For now, the case is going to be continued. Nick will not enter a plea. We were thinking that that was going to take place today. So also we're getting an update from the Associated Press. Nick Reiner appeared behind glass in a custody area of a Los Angeles courtroom. He was wearing his jail garb and had his hair shaved. So this is according to people that were inside or watching this from Los Angeles. So the attorneys went into the judge's chambers to confer before his case ended up being called. So just getting some more updates on it from right now, Marie. So just a surprise, because I believe, we have some sound from when Alan Jackson came out and was going to represent Nick. I think we have that queued up. Why don't we go ahead and play that? We can talk about that on the other side.
I just have a couple of quick words. First of all, and most importantly, this is a devastating tragedy that has befallen the Reiner family. We all recognize that. Our hearts go out to the entire Reiner family. There are very, very complex and serious issues that are associated with this case. These need to be thoroughly, but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed. We ask that during this process you allow the system to move forward in the way that it was designed to move forward. Not with a rush to judgment, not with jumping to conclusions, but with restraint and with dignity and with the respect that this system and this process deserves and that the family deserves. So with that, we are set for January 7th for an arraignment. That's the next court date. And that's all I have to say at this point. There may be more at some other point, but today we're going to rest on where we stand procedurally, which is this was the continuance of an arraignment. Nothing happened today substantively. We'll be back for an arraignment in the same department on the 7th of January. We'll see you then.
Yeah, so Marie, we heard Alan Jackson there talking about this, talking about it being a complex case. He was saying a lot of parts to this.
Like I was saying, it could be not guilty by reason of insanity. And I know it sounds crazy. It could be self-defense, because we do not know what happened inside there. And we can't go according to everything we hear from TMZ. We have to give the man an opportunity to lodge a defense. But you see how gung-ho he was, and now you're saying the case is probably going to a public defender. I want to tell the people, just because it's a public defender doesn't mean that it's not top-tier representation. Because remember, Philip Dubé used to be a public defender. I think Philip needs to come out of retirement and deal with this case. Because
in that office. He is the walking encyclopedia. He is our version of AI.
Most of the great defense attorneys come from the PD background or a prosecutorial background, and you get that training every single day in court. You have cases every single day, and so PDs definitely can be amazing. So, Marie, thanks. We're going to squeeze in a break. We're going to have more of this breaking news out of Los Angeles. Alan Jackson withdrawing from the Nick Reiner case. We'll be right back.
School shooting that broke hearts around the country and broke trust with law enforcement.
Now, the officer sworn to protect those students faces a jury.
The Uvalde school massacre trial. Live coverage today on Court TV. 8 hours of back-to-back true crime cases every Saturday.
This is crazy.
On America's original true crime obsession. 48 hours on Court TV. Saturday starting at 4/3 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live, along with Kelly Crawford, Ted Rollins. If you're just joining us, breaking news out of Los Angeles. Nick Reiner was supposed to be arraigned today, enter a plea. And we were speculating all morning, would it be not guilty by reason of insanity, thinking that his attorney, Alan Jackson, would be at his side in the courtroom. Well, the breaking news is that Alan Jackson is withdrawing from this case.
Yeah, big news out in Los Angeles. You know, you just go back to when this happened. I remember being at home with my parents and then hearing this on the news that, you know, the mom and dad had been stabbed, and you think, oh my gosh, what happened here? And then the information starts coming out about the son. Then you fast forward, then we hear that Alan Jackson is going to represent him, which, of course, all of our viewers are very familiar with Alan Jackson because we just came off of the Karen Reed case not too long ago where he had that successful victory with Karen Reed. But now the breaking news, he has withdrawn from this case. And we're hearing from TMZ that in a little bit we will hear the family is going to be issuing a statement, the Reiner family, as to a reason as to why this departure is taking place.
And the judge in this case is not allowing live streaming. So there was, according to people in the courtroom, the Associated Press and others had representatives there. They went back into chambers before the hearing got underway. However, Nick Reiner is not expected to enter a plea today, and in the absence of Alan Jackson, it is our understanding from reporting, including TMZ, that a public defender will take over this case. And again, to your point, we'll learn more very soon because when this concludes, A, we'll get the feed, whatever did happen in open court, and then B, we're expecting that family statement with more clarity as to the reasons why Alan Jackson is off the case.
Yeah, we do have a background package on this, a background story, just kind of getting people up to speed as to the situation, as to what had transpired before. Why don't we go ahead and play that, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Sunday, December 14th, around 3:30 p.m., Los Angeles firefighters responded to a 911 call at the Brentwood home of Hollywood filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife, Michele.
Upon arrival, they determined that there were two deceased individuals inside of the residence.
Rob Reiner, the son of comedy legend Carl Reiner, catapulted to fame in the 1970s as Michael Stivic, Archie Bunker's hippie son-in-law on the hit television series All in the Family.
All right, put it in.
He went on to become a prolific director of such films as This Is Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, and When Harry Met Sally.
I came here tonight because when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible.
Reiner and his wife, Hollywood producer Michele Singer Reiner, were found in their home fatally stabbed. The Reiner family confirmed the deaths in a statement posted on Variety.com. It is with profound sorrow that we announce the tragic passing of Michele and Rob Reiner. We are heartbroken by this sudden loss, and we ask for privacy during this unbelievably difficult time. The Reiners married in 1989 and had 3 children together, sons Jake, Nick, and daughter Romy. Nick Reiner has spoken openly through the years about his issues with drug addiction and homelessness. In 2016, he appeared in this clip, currently circulating on social media, with his father. It was a panel discussion promoting the movie Being Charlie, which was partially inspired by Rob Reiner's experiences parenting Nick.
The whole process for me, I can just speak for myself, it did make me understand him a lot more, and I think it made me a better father. Hopefully it did. If your kid is going through rough times, you know, the parent your main job is to keep your child safe.
As police, media, and onlookers converged on the home, sightings were reported of Reiner's friends and collaborators, Larry David and Billy Crystal. Tributes poured in from Hollywood and beyond. Carrie Elwes, who starred in Reiner's cult classic The Princess Bride, posted no words. Jerry O'Connell was one of the child actors featured in Stand By Me, and he tweeted, "Love you, Rob, sincerely." Former President Barack Obama wrote in part, beneath all of the stories he produced was a deep belief in the goodness of people and a lifelong commitment to putting that belief in action.
All right, Marie Pereira still with us. What does logistically happen here when you have an attorney withdraw, no arraignment today? They'll just set a new date for that and give the new attorney, whoever it is, time?
Yes, the attorney's going to have to meet him, interview him, see if he's okay with him being assigned as the attorney. Although for the most part, if you're indigent, and that's who the type of person that gets a free attorney, a public defender, is someone who has no money to pay. Because in America, if you're accused of something that has to do with your freedom, a criminal case, if you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. And you don't really have much say in who it is unless there's a big difference and meeting of the minds. You get the attorney that they appoint for you.
But the high-profile case, you can be assured it's going to be someone with experience. We're going to get a break. Marie, stand by. When we come back, more Nick Reiner, plus that Washington State trial. Busy Wednesday at Court TV. Welcome back to Court TV Live, along with Kelly Craft and Ted Rollins. We're reacting to the breaking news out of Los Angeles. Nick Reiner, who was supposed to be arraigned formally today in a Los Angeles courtroom and represented by Alan Jackson, is going to do neither. He is not going to be arraigned today. That's going to be pushed back. And according to multiple sources and reporting out of L.A., Alan Jackson is off the case, no longer representing Nick Reiner.
Yeah, this breaking news just took place a short time ago, and we are awaiting a statement from the Reiner family as to the reason. TMZ reporting that a short time from now, the Reiner family is going to be issuing a statement or talking about the reason as to why this departure has taken place.
Let's bring in our guest for the hour to get some reaction. She is joining us now from New Jersey, Livingston, New Jersey, Crystal Pettiford. Chris, what's your take on this high-profile case, obviously, high-profile lawyer now out, Alan Jackson withdrawing?
It's kind of surprising that he's withdrawing on such short notice, right when the arraignment is being scheduled. Obviously, you can assume that there may be some disagreements on how the case should be handled or how he should plea. Otherwise, I can't imagine a reason why on the date of arraignment he would withdraw as counsel.
Well, yeah, I mean, Crystal, that's a great point, because that's what we were expecting to take place today, him to enter some sort of plea. And so if there was going to be discussions as to a departure, discussions as to, and I'm speculating here that maybe there was some sort of financial agreement that now has fallen through the cracks, you would have thought that you would have heard that they would have made a decision about this prior to today. So, maybe it's more than that. Maybe it has nothing to do with finances. Again, we don't know. We will find out shortly. But yes, for it to happen today, on the day that we're supposed to be hearing how he is going to enter in regard to his plea, that was kind of a surprise.
Yes, definitely a surprise. On the eve of an arraignment, it can only be assumed that it probably could be financial, but I would think it's more so something to do with how they should proceed.
We've been talking about Philip Dubé sort of because he was the lead public defender in Los Angeles County for many years and has just retired from that position. He's, still a lawyer, still practicing, but now no longer part of the office. And he's in Mexico right now, and he just texted me, and he's chiming in, and he brings up the probate situation, saying that under California Probate Code 250, a beneficiary to a trust estate cannot inherit if they murder them, basically. There's no money to pay for the counsel. That it may have something to do with that. Again, we'll find out. But, if you're an heir, you can't murder the person that is going to be, you're going to get money from, and then use that money to represent you at trial. So could it be about money, Crystal, at the end of the day?
I mean, that's always a possibility, but Mr. Jackson is a very experienced attorney. I'm sure he's fully aware that Nick Reiner would not have been able to reap the benefits of any money willed to him or left to him as a result of his parents' death. So I think that would have been something that would have been discussed prior to the date of arraignment.
Yeah, absolutely, Crystal. And we're going to stick with this story because we're hearing that we're going to get some more updates here momentarily, maybe a live feed from Los Angeles. And of course, as soon as we get that, we're going to bring that to our viewers. But yes, I mean, going back to just what we were talking about, when you hire an attorney, there's usually an agreement. This is how we're going to get paid. These are my fees. This is what, we're going to do going forward for our payments, the retainer. And so then, and we would know that. Alan Jackson would know that, just exactly what Philip Dubé was texting you about. So there should have been some sort of knowledge already behind them as to what the financial situation was. So that's what makes me think Crystal, along the lines of what you're saying, that maybe there was some sort of different reason as to why exactly this took place. I know last hour when we had Marie Pereira on, I was talking maybe because of case management. She was saying no, that's probably not a possibility because he would have known when he took the case. So I don't know. I mean, again, we're just speculating here, but Crystal, any more thoughts as to that? I mean, what do you think about case management? Sometimes you take something on, then you start going into it and you're like, whoa, I have so much on my plate. He has that high-profile case out in Los Angeles about that young man who was driving along Pacific Coast Highway. That one's a huge case. He just came off the Karen Reed case, and that victory there, obviously, that one's behind him now. But obviously, he's a very busy man.
Well, of course, but he's also very knowledgeable, and he's able to manage his cases effectively. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so successful. So I wouldn't think it would be a case management issue. Again, completely assuming. I can only assume that maybe based on it being previously adjourned, there wasn't understanding that there may have been a guilty plea. And it would be more about sentencing. Maybe there was a shift in that, and therefore now the fees associated with someone entering an early plea are much different than the fees for a defendant planning to defend themselves from the allegations. So I can only assume that it has something to do with that, and maybe the trajectory of the defense has since changed.
Yeah, Crystal, and that's an excellent point, because yes, if Alan Jackson is going to go and come up with a defense and use his skills as an attorney and, you know, talk about not guilty by reason of insanity, and then all of a sudden there is a shift where we're going to come today, we're going to just say guilty, we're not even going to proceed, yeah, that would definitely be a difference in finances.
Yeah, if indeed, you know, Nick Reiner himself didn't want to participate and go a certain way, that might have been part of it. Again, we'll get more from that family statement. We're also expecting the feed of what actually happened in court today in open court. They all went into chambers shortly after the case was called, but the judge in this case didn't allow us to live stream. So we're sort of waiting for that procedural event to take place where we'll be getting that feed along with everybody else at the same time. And as soon as we do, we'll pass it along. The Nick Reiner's arraignment is delayed until February.
Yeah, so that's new information. We just have heard now. We thought
the Associated Press.
We thought it was going to be taking place today, that he was going to be entering a plea, and now we're hearing just some breaking news that now that has been delayed until February. Obviously, understandably, it was delayed as of today. We just hadn't had that date yet, so that's some breaking news. Now we'll have that, and we'll bring that to our viewers when it does happen, about a month from now.
Yeah. Again, we're waiting that feed from the court. And Crystal, procedurally, now you have according to multiple reports, including TMZ, the Public Defender's Office representing Nick Reiner. Some people may think, oh gosh, Public Defender's Office, there are extremely competent public defenders. And in Los Angeles, a city of that size, they are going to appoint someone with experience to handle the complexities of a high-profile trial. He's going to still get good representation, correct?
Absolutely. There are many public defenders that are top tier. They do this on a regular basis. They handle cases of comprehensive magnitudes all the time. Just because a person is a public defender, that doesn't make them any less qualified than a privately retained attorney.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I remember back when I was working just as a, assistant state's attorney back in Illinois, and when I was first starting, and, you're handed so many files, and you have to go in every day and switch gears from this case to that case to that case. And public defenders have that same kind of background, same kind of training, and many of them go on to be very successful defense attorneys. But that's what we're hearing, that in the meantime, Nick Reiner is going to be appointed a public defender. If he then will end up getting private counsel. Crystal, kind of talk about that process. When someone is deemed indigent and you have to fill out, I mean, at least when I was practicing, they had to fill out the paperwork saying about what they have for their assets, and then the judge makes a decision as to if they are able to be appointed a public defender, or if then they have to go to the next step and hire private counsel. But kind of talk about that process. Right now, Nick is going with the PD, and then eventually maybe he will go back to having private counsel.
would actually be surprised if he didn't go back to getting private counsel, but his process would be no different from anyone else. There would be, there would be an analysis of his financial means and ability to pay a private attorney. If he falls within the required guidelines of a person who is eligible for a public defender, then he would get a public defender. And as you previously stated, they're gonna appoint a public defender that is very experienced in handling cases of this magnitude. It would be the same process for him that it would be for anyone else. There's, I don't believe he was working at the time based on everything that's been out in the media, so I don't see why he would not qualify for the assistance of a public defender.
Crystal, let's talk about the case against Nick Reiner. It seems to be substantial in terms of he is the one that took the lives of his parents. Was it strangely self-defense? Was he under the influence of something? Was he coherent? All of these questions we don't know. We don't know a lot. But we do know that he seems to be the person that took their lives. What possible defenses really are there moving forward in this case, from what we know?
The primary defense, it seems, based on what's out there, is he's probably going to go with something related to his mental health. From what we understand, he's been struggling with some mental health issues. Maybe he's going to try to say he wasn't in his right state of mind at the time of the killings, and that it wasn't premeditated. Otherwise, I don't see what defense. I don't believe self-defense would ever come into the equation, because there's been nothing in the news that his parents were in any way violent toward him. Everything leads to the fact they've been loving and trying to guide him through his rehabilitation phases of his life. So I don't think self-defense will come into play. If anything, I think there will be some affirmative defense of his mental health and incapacity.
Yeah, I would think, yeah, that's probably true. You know, I'd like to go ahead and play that when Alan Jackson took over this case, he came out there on the courthouse steps and he talked about the complexity of this case. He talked about it being complex. When you first hear about the case, you're like, oh, okay. You hear the parents were stabbed, then you hear that the son is involved in some way, and then you have Alan Jackson coming out and talking about the case being complex. At first thought, Crystal, I'll bring you in instead of playing that sound, but at first thought you think, well, how complex can it really be? You know, the parents are dead now, they were stabbed to death, and it's coming out as information as to the son is responsible. But you'd hear a very seasoned defense attorney come out and say the case is quite complex. What are your thoughts on that?
I think when an attorney says the case isn't that complex, it's quite complex, my apologies. In a matter like this, I think it's to stop the public and potential jurors from rushing to judgment. If you make it simplistic, then we jump to the conclusion automatically that this was a person who was out of control and killed his parents. But when you want to make it a broader issue, possibly mental health or something else, then you want to keep an open mind and you want the jury to focus on the complexities and what led up to these specific events. If you make it any less complex, then the writing is on the wall that he killed his parents, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, good point, good point. And again, that arraignment we were expecting to take place today now has been delayed until February, so a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah, and apparently the feed that is coming out of Los Angeles of the hearing that was on the record, there are some complications with that. So let's do this. We'll get a break. We'll regroup. Probably head back to Washington, watch that until we get more from the Reiner case. We are still expecting that family statement, which should have some clues as to why Alan Jackson is off. So as soon as we get that too, we'll share it with you. But stay where you are. Busy day here at Court TV. Don't go anywhere.
School shooting that broke hearts around the country and broke trust with law enforcement.
Now, the officer sworn to protect those students faces a jury.
The Uvalde school massacre trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Tonight, on closing arguments, Nick Reiner arraigned on charges that he murdered his mother and father. We'll show you everything you may have missed as we preview what is next.
Closing arguments with Vinny Politan. Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. A busy day. We've been monitoring what's going on in Southern California, where Nick Reiner was to be arraigned today. And Alan Jackson, his attorney, high-profile attorney, has withdrawn from the case. That arraignment's been pushed till late February 23rd.
Yeah, and we're just getting some information now as to what the family is saying. They did issue a brief comment saying that they have the utmost trust in the legal process and will not comment further on matters relating to the legal proceedings. And they went on a source. This is a source told the New York Times, so this is according to the New York Times. The change had nothing to do with Alan's performance and that he had been a pro. So new information there. We had reported earlier that Alan Jackson has withdrawn from the case, and now we're hearing just some of this general information. Of course, they're saying nothing to do with Alan's performance and that he had been a pro.
And the public defender, Kimberly Green, 19 years of experience, apparently has been appointed to the case. So she'll be along his side when they are back in court at the 23rd. We are still expecting that feed from the courthouse. There's been some technical problems with that. So nobody has it yet. As soon as it is released, we'll pass it along to you. But the breaking news today, obviously, is that Nick Reiner not arraigned yet, and Alan Jackson is out.
Yeah. PD representing. We're going to switch gears. Go back to Washington State. This is for the cheating fire chief murder trial that's taking place out there. The defendant in this case, Kevin West, accused of strangling his wife, Marcy, to death in January of 2024.
Yeah, this is a fascinating case. Prosecutors say the West initially said that, he's got a great relationship with his wife, but then text messages later revealed that he was having an affair for apparently decades with a woman, and that she had found out and she was planning on moving out the very day that she was killed.
Let's go back into the courtroom now for the start of the defense's opening statement.
Kevin West, on the early morning of January 8th, 2024, tried to save her. He used his skills of 25 years of being a paramedic, his training, his passion to try to save her. Good. He called 911, knowing the response it would bring. It would bring a battalion chief, it would bring a captain, it would bring 3 other paramedics. He knew this. That they would come in to scrutinize this to help, and he wanted their help because he couldn't save her. So they came in and they tried, and they couldn't save her. People die. Not every life-saving effort works. He tried to save the woman he'd been married to for about 22 years and had 2 children with, and they both wanted to. They wanted to, if he could, somehow save. He loved her, she loved him. But it was not a perfect marriage. You will find it was not. It was a deteriorating marriage. It was one that had been crumbling for years, almost from the beginning, but glued together by children and circumstances and finances, you name it. So they had met when they were in their late 20s in Eugene, Oregon. She was working at a Peace Health down there. She was working as a CNA for an oncologist. Kevin was working for Eugene Fire at the time. He was working their non-emergency transport. This is the van that takes people to the hospital, medical appointments, non-emergency. That was the job he was doing. His dream was to become a firefighter. That was his goal. On one of his visits to the hospital to drop someone off for their oncology appointment, he met Marcy. They caught each other on each other's eye. They liked each other. They started dating. And they became a couple. Kevin continued in his quest to become a firefighter. He began his EMT training, went to Lankford College, got his EMT degree, then he went further and got his paramedic qualification through the same college. At the same time, he was volunteering at the Rural Land County Fire Department, and he became a paramedic with some experience. Now, at some point, he gets a job with what was then known as the Kansas Fire Department. This is before they joined Washington. And he and Marcy moved up to Vancouver. They got married. Life seems good. They have a couple of children. Kevin's working his way up the ladder, working hard at the fire department. Marcy is now working at Peace Health up here in Vancouver. But things change. After the birth of their first child, Ted, they have 2 kids, Ted and Megan. You'll meet both of them, wonderful kids. After the birth of their first child, Ted, Marcy loses all interest in intimacy. Not an uncommon thing for some folks. But it causes a real strain on the relationship. It causes them to grow apart. They have different personalities. Marcy's very reserved. Marcy is not a very sociable person. Marcy would not like to go to social functions. Kevin is the opposite. He's outgoing. He's outspoken. He likes people. He loves people. He wants affection. And he's not getting that back. So at some point at the fire department, there's a volunteer there. Her name is Cynthia Wood. And they develop a friendship. It progresses into more than a friendship. They have a brief affair. A strong connection. It runs its course briefly, and then they're off after that. Cynthia moves away. Kevin continues his life with his wife, working his way up the ladder. Marcy keeps working at the hospital. She's working as some kind of administrative position in ER at Peace Health. Kevin works his way up the ladder. He goes from paramedic firefighter to being captain, and at some point becoming the battalion chief, one of the battalion chiefs there. But their marriage continues to crumble. But it's like everything. It ebbs, flows. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes there's hope, sometimes there's not. And over the years, Kevin's not getting that attention that he wants, that kind of love that he wants to get. So, in about July of 2023, this is about 6 months before Marcy goes. So this is kind of the 6-month time frame that's important. He reaches out to Cynthia, finds her on Facebook. Hey, how you doing? Been a while, remember me? Oh, sure, I remember you. They start trading messages. They develop a friendship again online. At some point, they meet. They don't meet personally till late August. The relationship's going pretty fast. They meet, they renew their affair. They don't see each other very often because they live a ways apart, and they see each other about once every month or so. This is a relationship that Kevin is keeping secret from us. Holding out the hope that perhaps someday that relationship could be repaired, perhaps not. We might say. In about July of 2023, this is about 6 months before Marcy goes. So this is kind of the 6-month time frame that's important. He reaches out to Cynthia, finds her on Facebook. Hey, how you doing? Been a while, remember me? Oh, sure, I remember you. They start trading messages. They develop a friendship again online. At some point, they meet. They don't meet personally till late August. The relationship's going pretty fast. They meet, they renew their affair. They don't see each other very often because they live a ways apart, and they see each other about once every month or so. This is a relationship that Kevin is keeping secret from us. Holding out the hope that perhaps someday that relationship could be repaired, perhaps not. We might say. He deletes his messages. He communicates on WhatsApp. He does the things that a spouse does to keep a relationship like that private. But again, it rises, it falls, and there was a time when it was really frosty, some really bad, snippy messages going back and forth. It doesn't look good, but every once in a while it gets better. And here's what happens. Right around the end of the year, after Christmas of 2023, suddenly there's a pretty significant fall in the relationship. The messages become kinder. The tone warmer between the two. There's hope. Now, as a backdrop of this, right around the very beginning of January, it would have been about January 2nd or 3rd, Megan, who's now first-year pre-med up at the University of Washington, did really well in school, got scholarships when I was there. And when Marcy went up there to take her back, they couldn't listen to music in the car because she had one of her migraine headaches.
Objection. Motion's not on, Your Honor.
Overruled objection. And so they couldn't listen to music as they normally do because she had this medical name. This had become a chronic problem for her. She comes back, some more time goes by, Megan's up north. Ted is now going into family business. He's actually started his first night of residency at the Hawkinson Fire Department. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. This is going up to January 7th. This is Sunday the 7th. This is the day before Marcy passes. Marcy's been having chronic problems, chest pains. She's been having ear pain, applied ear sensation, chronic migraines, routine. Carries ibuprofen with her wherever she goes. She won't go to the doctor. Never, ever goes to the doctor. Kevin tries to get her to go. She won't go. At some point, to get a new benefit at work, it's called the lifestyle. It's some kind of product that's sold to unions so that they can get a scan of your body and different health conditions. Turns out, but this was something that wasn't planned along on the spur of the moment. She didn't have this until just about a month before she passed. It was December 2023 when she had it done. But to get on the list, you had to plan this a year in advance. Kevin had made that appointment for her a year before because she didn't go to the doctor. At least she didn't get this. No big findings, fatty liver. She had PVC, which is a pre-ventricular contraction, which is a heart condition that is not, from what we understand, is not typically fatal, not typically the concern, a lot of people like it. And that's all they find. So now here we go, we're on the 7th. And this is the last day Ted's in the house. Kind of exciting time for him because he's going over into the fire department for the first time. And that morning, Kevin gets up in the morning like he always does early, makes his coffee, does whatever he does, he's in the living room, and the house is laid out. You'll kind of get the feeling for it later. It's a two-story house, pretty big. Come down the stairs, down the hallway to another family room. There's a kitchen there as well. He has his coffee. Marcy gets up. It's pleasant. She's searching for things related to their daughter's upcoming wedding, which is going to be in July or August of that year. Exciting times. This is what everybody's looking at to do. She's also searching for places for Kevin and her to go on his birthday, which is on January 18th. It's just a couple weeks away. This is different than one. Ted makes pancakes for the family with the kid. And it's a really nice morning. That afternoon, Ted and Megan play a family card game called Spike and Mouse. Myself, Megan, heard of it. They play this game. Ted's a big winner, so it's kind of an exciting afternoon. It's a very nice, warm feeling, one that Kevin hasn't seen in a long time. And so, toward the afternoon, Ted goes to work. Kevin says, hey, let's look at some food. We'll eat some food, we'll do some takeout, we'll watch some movies and have a nice evening. Okay, sounds good. He goes down to, with Washugo, toward the east end of Washugo, there's a Safeway, there's a plaza, there's a restaurant in there called Beach. It's a Japanese restaurant. He goes down there, they're not open. So he sends her a text, they're not open, what do you want to do? Then there's a phone call. And he says, okay, I'm going to go to the Chinese Garden, Chinese Cafe, whatever it is. It's that one in downtown Washugo. And he picks up lemon chicken and noodles for Marcy. That's her favorite food. And he comes home. It's just the truth. They eat food. They start streaming. We stream a couple of movies. Several hours go by. It's got a cool comments.
All right, listening to defense counsel's opening there, just getting to the point where he's talking about them going and getting the defendant going and getting Chinese food. So we'll hear more about the opening statement.
I've not heard the Chinese food defense that it causes seizures before.
Well, that's what the defendant is saying.
We'll see. Let's get a break. More. The opening from the defense, in this case out of Washington. Plus, we're still waiting for that Nick Reiner feed out of Los Angeles. Stay with us. Welcome back to Court TV Live, along with Kelly Craft. I'm Ted Rollins. We're going to head back to that courtroom in Washington where we've been watching the opening statements in the cheating fire chief murder trial.
Defendant Kevin West, a Vancouver Fire Battalion chief, he is facing a murder charge after allegedly strangling his wife Marcy to death inside their home. Prosecutors say Kevin killed Marcy to carry on an affair.
Let's head back to the courtroom now. We're listening to the defense opening statement. He just told the jury that the night in question they had gotten some Chinese food. Let's pick it up right there.
They've only been intimate maybe every month and a half or so, sometimes every few weeks or so, but very, very rarely. And this day they got close. Sometime in the evening, they went upstairs together to their bedroom. Afterward, Kevin came back downstairs. He goes back down the stairs, around down the hallway, all the way to the family room. He's sitting there watching the TV with the volume up. And at some point, Marcy comes downstairs and says, "Hi, Howard, I'm having one of my terrible headaches." So she takes ibuprofen. She goes back upstairs. He checks on her, make sure she's okay. Paramedic is always going to say, "Hey, how's your walk? How's your head? Did you go a lot?" Something like that. She goes back upstairs, and a little while later, maybe 45 minutes or so, he hears, in spite of the distance and the sound going on, he hears her throwing up violently. He goes upstairs quickly to check on her. She's in the guest bathroom. He helps her. He holds her hair back. Does all the things you do for someone to have that control. She throws it violently for a solid minute. And then she goes to bed. Kevin goes back downstairs for a while. At some point he goes up to bed too. He's asleep. Is Marcy asleep? Marcy's asleep. Marcy might have been asleep. She might not be asleep. Kevin's asleep. And sometime around early morning hours, turns out it's a little bit after 4 a.m. we believe, but they have a dog, Sadie. Sadie sleeps on the bed all the time. You'll see the leggings, you'll see the bedspread, you'll see the dog hair. Sadie sleeps on the various places on the bed down the floor. Sadie starts to whimper enough finally so that it wakes Kevin. Kevin's trying to quiet her down. And then he feels something different next to him. He feels something kind of stiff and unusual. So he kind of reaches over, he looks over, and Marcy's having a seizure. He's a trained paramedic, he can recognize the seizure. He sees the seizure, he goes around and tries to help her. This is something he's not seen happen to her before. She doesn't have any real life-threatening conditions that he's aware of. So he calls 911. He can't help her, and he has enough sense to not let his ego get in the way like a lot of people are trying to would. And he tries to help her first, and then he calls 911, knowing the response is going to be. He's on the phone with 911. They're telling him to perform CPR. You hear the call. He's a little frustrated because they're teaching him, they're trying to get him to do CPR in a way that he does not feel that they should, according to his training. But he ends up following the instructions, the breaths, and then the 30 compressions. So he's giving her compressions, and he's good at this. He knows how to do this. He's giving very good, effective compressions. At some point, he hears the sirens. He says, "I got to run downstairs." It's all 911 call. "I got to run downstairs and unlock the door." He does. He goes downstairs, unlocks the door, comes back up. Compressions. Then you see the cavalry arrive. You got two paramedics traveling together first. They get out of the car. One of them comes in first. He's Rick Byrne. He comes in. He says, "Where are you?" And he hears a voice upstairs. I'm up here. And so he goes up. He realizes for the first time this is coming. It's getting worse. It's the cavalry chief. Rick goes in, sets up his heart monitor. He's kind of the head guy at this point. Sets up the heart monitor, puts the IVs in for the epinephrine and the bisodium carbonate. These are things to help stimulate the heart to make the chances a little bit better. And at the same time, we have Derek Miller come in, another paramedic, and he's setting up for the what's called the Lucas device. You'll learn about this thing. The Lucas device is going to be important. And when they get the Lucas device on, they've got the monitoring going on, and then you've got another paramedic He comes in, she's working the head. She's doing what they call the bagging. Okay, you have someone doing it's a bag valve mask, the BDM will say. And she's working that. And this is the thing where you have to press down on the face really hard to get a seal over the mouth and the nose. And you have to reach under the head and grab under the chin and around behind the ears and squeeze, lift the head and pull so you clear the airway. And she does this, and somebody else has to do the bagging for this brief period of time because you only have so many hands. And so she's doing this until they get the eye gel. And that's a tube that's shaped like this long. And it goes in like this. It's a blind insertion where it keeps the airway open. Then they hook the bag valve mask up to the eye gel. They work on her for 30 minutes. You'll see a video of this Lucas device. This thing is literally a machine. It's doing CPR. It's mechanized CPR. It's got a little arch like this. It's got a really hard metal back plate underneath it. It starts in the middle of your back and extends up to the top. And this thing is just pounding away. It's also got a strap that goes up around the neck to keep the person from sinking. And this thing is just pounding away. Every 2 minutes it gives the tone and it stops. You're supposed to look at your vitals. And then if it's not going on, you go for another 2 minutes. They did 9 rounds of life-saving measures. They did more than they could do for me. They tried so hard because this was a COVID. They never got a heart response. It appears that she may have been dead when they got there. She may have been dead when Kevin got there. When Kevin was first trying to find out if she was breathing, it was very dark to find out that the lights weren't working in the bedroom. It had like one of these weird remotes. It's a fan light that didn't work for some reason. And so he couldn't see, he couldn't watch the chest rise. He thought she was breathing at first, and then she appeared not to be breathing.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, neither of the opening statements so far have been, one way or the other. They're just really being very factual about, what, kind of the situation and what we've all read about. So I'm not hearing really anything like.
I had a tough time with the fire chief not knowing whether his wife was breathing or not. But hey, it's the beginning. It's opening statements, just both sides laying it out. We'll get a break. More from Washington when we come back.
School shooting that broke hearts around the country and broke trust with law enforcement.
Now, the officer sworn to protect those students faces a jury.
The Uvalde school massacre trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, new developments in the murders of Rob and Michele Reiner. We'll show you everything you may have missed as we preview what is next.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan. Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Back to Washington now. A former fire battalion chief is facing life in prison if convicted of murdering his wife to carry on an affair.
The defendant here reportedly told 911 dispatchers back in January of last year that his wife, Marcy, had a seizure and she stopped breathing. But medical examiners later determined that her cause of death was asphyxia with a blunt neck trauma, prompting, of course, the arrest. And now he is charged with first-degree murder.
Let's go ahead and head back into the courtroom. We've been listening to the defense counsel's opening. Let's go back in.
After all these efforts, at 5:11 a.m. on January 2020, Marcelo arrested his parents. The house is filled with paramedics, firefighters, police come, it's routine. And unexpected death of police officers. So they come, they check in. It is the Washington Police, and counsel is absolutely right. They had to send you off to a different one just to avoid the appearance of impropriety. They just didn't want to look like they're treating one of their own better than others. So that's what they do. The medical examiner comes and takes the results over to the medical examiner's office. And about 2 days later, there's an autopsy performed. This is Dr. Martha Burt. We've heard about her a moment ago, we've heard about her again. And Dr. Martha Burt does an initial autopsy. Really nothing to see here, but she does this initial autopsy, no real serious findings. And then they receive some information from somebody, as counsel mentioned, that got their attention, say, hey, because the body has been done, packed up, and sent to the funeral home. They go get that body back. So they go get the body, they bring it back. A couple of days after that, they do a second autopsy. Dr. Burt will insist it's one autopsy, but it's a second part of one autopsy. They did not make any additional incisions, the counsel said. What they did was they just looked at the same, took more pictures and looked a little deeper. That's what they did. All the what they call the reflection they had done the first one. So this time, with this newly acquired information, they're now interpreting things in a different way. And Dr. Burt will say that there appeared to be, to her, appeared to be blunt force trauma to the carotid sheath, which is this thing that runs down here to the top of your heart. And all the damage, all the tissue damage is kind of low to the neck from the top of the head. And you also learned that on the 7th, before Ted left, he gave her one of these incredible Ted West massages. I should have mentioned that earlier. He gave these massages where he would rub really hard. He would stick his elbow in and just dig until people said, okay, that's enough. Everybody wanted more and more. He gave everybody massages. He was famous for this. He gave Kevin massages. He gave Marcy massages almost every day. All of his female cousins, his sister, he gave everybody these incredible massages. But they see this damage, and Dr. Burt has to go just off what she sees and what she's heard. Can't talk to her. So she sees no other cause that she can think of that she identifies. So she calls it asphyxiation, and she leaves it a homicide. That is her job, those are her guidelines. That's what she had to work with. It is a guess. So police are notified. Clark County Sheriff's Office gets sent in. It's Dean Tellison and Lawrence Zapata are kind of leading the charge on this. At some point, they show up at Kevin's house unannounced on January 24th, I think it was, 2024. He didn't know they were coming, but he invites them in. He sits down for a long interview. She shares all this information. No, she never had any medical conditions. No, she was healthy. I don't know if he couldn't make any reason for why this might occur. Thank you very much, sir. They leave. And then they come back about a week later, and they do it again. They show up with unannounced. He invites them in, sits down for another one. He has all these chances, and they're telling him, we found all this deep tissue damage. How can you explain that? I said, I don't know. She didn't have any medical condition. So that's how we started, ladies and gentlemen. It is a There's a lot of talk about direct and circumstantial evidence. It's all circumstantial, all. And it does not add up to proof beyond reasonable doubt. At the end of this, ladies and gentlemen, I will be coming back here, and I'll be asking you, based upon everything you've listened to so carefully for the past couple of weeks, to render a verdict of not guilty in this matter. Thank you.
Okay, there's the soft delivery of the defense opening statement out there in Washington with the fire chief case. Interesting, we're going to monitor that and dip in and out of it over the coming days and if need be weeks. But boy, what a day it's been. We've got Nick Reiner, and then coming up next hour, you've got Uvalde that'll be back fighting in court.
Yeah, big development out there. You know, the defense counsel saying this is a surprise trial by ambush.
Yeah, so we'll see if indeed there is a mistrial declared. That's at 2:30 Eastern time. We're still waiting for that the Nick Reiner hearing to be delivered. There's technical problems with that. Lots ahead. We're going to get a break right now. When we come back, Matt Johnson is going to join us and set up the 2:30 Uvalde showdown between the state and the defense.
anything HRable, because when you need more than doable, that's bambooable.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala, and it is a busy day today here at Court TV. Right now, we are in Corpus Christi, Texas. This hour, a mistrial could be declared in the trial against former Uvalde School District Officer Adrian Gonzalez. Day one of the trial ended yesterday with former Robb Elementary School teacher Stephanie Hale testifying about seeing the gunman heading toward the school. But the defense abruptly stopped Hale's testimony when she shared information about what the gunman was wearing. Information that the defense said was not previously shared by prosecutors as required. Take a listen.
Standing there, the dirt was kind of, you could see the dirt cloud up, kind of coming towards us. And then as we were all running into the classroom, I saw I don't know what to call him, horrible person, walking.
Just take your time. We can hold on.
Walking towards the door.
Can you describe him for us?
He had all black, long hair, and a gun.
All right, here to help break it all down is Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. Matt, great to see you as always. All right, there's a possible mistrial, as I mentioned. Please break down for us what happened.
Yeah, this could be the end of the case as we see it today. This could mean mistrial after that bombshell testimony during day one of the trial from that traumatized teacher. Today, we expect more heated arguments outside the jury's presence concerning testimony from teacher Stephanie Hale, who described seeing the gunman on campus wearing black with long hair near a certain entrance, and in relation to the defendant right there, Adrian Gonzalez, and his position. The defense claims that this was a change in her prior testimony not disclosed by prosecutors.
During that interview, 4 days after this happened, you never told Ranger Benson that you had seen anybody matching the description of black, wearing all black and long hair.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember.
Your Honor, and so based on that, we have never gotten any notice from the prosecution, and that is clearly an inconsistent statement with the statement that she gave. The prosecution has never provided us. This is clear under Brady. It's clear under Michael Morton that if this is the first time that I'm hearing of this in a trial of this magnitude is when she testified on the stand about it. And so if she did report these things to the prosecution, we were entitled to that to prepare for this. And this is a trial by ambush.
The defense calling this a Brady violation, which is when the prosecution in a criminal case fails to disclose evidence that is favorable to the defense and could be material to the outcome of the case. Violation, as we know, could lead to a mistrial. Arguments outside the jury's presence again today, this afternoon at 2:30.
Yep, but we're bringing that to our viewers now. The prosecutor in this case, of course, was questioned because, of course, we have to find out what he or she knew. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this was such a big deal that the prosecutor was placed under oath and questioned by the judge, her co-counsel, and the defense team. This reminiscent of another case we covered here at Court TV, the Baldwin trial in New Mexico, where Special Prosecutor Carrie Morrissey answered questions outside the jury's presence about evidence and disclosure, evidence that the defense said that they never saw, leading to a mistrial in that case. Back in Texas, here is the questioning of ADA Christina Busby on what prosecutors knew about this teacher's testimony now in question.
Do you have any notes as to Ms. Hale telling the prosecution where the man in black was?
No, she told us there was a man in black. She looked, she saw a man in black with a long rifle. But she didn't tell us that he was specifically at that location at the south end on the sidewalk. She did say.
Thank you. And I'd also call Mr. Garza, Your Honor. Oh, I'm sorry. Pass the witness.
But clarify for me, what was in the grand jury testimony that you did disclose?
That there was dirt flying up.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Question.
Ms. Mitchell, the notes that you're referring to, on what date was that interview done?
I have to go back to my calendar. It was sometime in mid-December. It was right before Christmas.
An officer of the court being questioned in open court under oath. I mean, Michael, we can't emphasize this enough, highlight it, magnify it, however you want to put it. We don't normally see this at court TV.
No, we don't. And now the defense, they actually had some things to say about this outside of the courthouse. Tell us about that, Matt.
Oh, you're right. They have a lot to say outside the courthouse. The defense doubling down, calling this a trial by ambush, and explained how it changes their case. Here's more of their reaction.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's happening for us in real time as the witness is on the stand. So I don't know if you probably could see, but after she started testifying, I started looking back at the paralegal, and we started going back and forth, and I'm talking to Nico, because we had never seen anything like that before in anything that we've had. Obviously, we've been going over this case for almost 2 years. And so, yeah, it was surprising. And so then I said, well, let's question her and see. And of course, she said, well, yeah, I've been telling them. And then the prosecution says, oh, yeah, she's been telling us. That's where we're having an issue, obviously, because the law in Texas is that if she's telling them that, they must tell us that.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes up to the minute on this one. The defense, they said that they're going to work through the night, weigh their options, what they're going to ask the judge to do. As the remedy for all of this, the judge also wanted to see the defense strategy. He wanted that emailed to them so that he could evaluate just how badly the defense case is impacted by this shocking testimony, Michael.
Oh, just shocking stuff. Matt Johnson, thank you so much, as always, for that report. And folks, if you're wondering why it's so important, the positioning of the shooter in this case is important because a big part of the prosecution's case is the proximity of the defendant to that shooter before he enters the school. So that's why it could, in fact, be exculpatory for this defendant had they known that he was in one particular place as put forth by that teacher. All right, let's bring in our guest joining us this hour, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Marie Pereira. And she's in studio today. Marie, great to see you. Great to have you here with me in the studio. Also with us, a wonderful guest, Jamie White is with us. He's joining us from Michigan. Jamie, great to see you as well. And Marie, I'll begin with you. Big deal, very big deal. And again, this has to do with information that the defense is claiming might have been withheld from them that could be exculpatory for their client or be material to the case in terms of helping their client, the defendant. So I'd love to get your thoughts on where we stand on this right now.
I think there's a lot more information we need to get. Like you said earlier, we need to find out how consequential was this information to the defense theory. So it's not just, okay, you didn't give us this, but it's you didn't give us this, and the testimony came out of the witness's mouth on the stand, right? Left us unprepared. So a simple direction, a curative direction to the witness to say, disregard this, jurors, right, is not going to be enough to wrong this right, because allowing her to say that and then us not having the information in advance really put us at a disadvantage to the point where it would be unconstitutional to their client to let the jurors deal with that information and come up with a verdict based on the information they never had. I think they have a lot of steps to reach before they can convince the judge that this is the only cure for this malady. That's a big, big thing to do, order a mistrial.
Yeah, no question about it. And Jamie, what's interesting is the information on one hand could be helpful to the defense, but it really can create problems if their strategy is such that it really puts a wrench in the way they had prepared for the case. That's the big issue here. What do you think the judge might land on this?
Well, to your first point, yes, I do think that ultimately the defense has a tough decision to make. They've already made the request for relief. I suspect potential testimony is going to play with a jury. On the other hand, I think that the judge, I'm going to just go a little bit further. I agree with Maria, but I don't believe that there's a subjective inquiry here as to whether or not it would have been helpful and how hurtful it is. Brady is pretty clear, as is Michael Morton, that it's not a subjective inquiry. If there was a violation, there was a violation, and it's not up for the prosecutor to explain that away. The judge does have a lot of options here, but I have to say that I would not be surprised to see a mistrial under these particular circumstances. And just one final thought, I think that your viewers, it's important to understand that we have inconsistent statements all the time in any type of case. We love them because it gives us an opportunity to impeach. It's when the prosecutor has possession of that information and fails to disclose it, that's when we have a constitutional violation.
Yeah, and that's the big issue here, Marie, whether they had knowledge of this particular statement, which is why they're being questioned in court. The question is, if they knew. Now, if they didn't know, that certainly puts them on better footing in terms of not getting a mistrial in this case and continuing on. We know so much work, time, effort, money goes into putting these trials on and getting to the point we're at.
If they knew about it and they intentionally withheld exculpatory evidence, yes, then this is absolutely a no-brainer, because as Jamie says, it's not subjective, it's did you know about it and did you withhold it? And did you deprive defense of the opportunity to formulate a theory based on all the discovery that they should have had? If the answer is yes, then yes, there could be a high risk that there's a mistrial here.
Now, I think I know what you meant earlier, though, Marie, and Jamie, I want to throw this out at you. But as we heard, the judge asked for the strategy of the defense.
Yes.
Because I think in this case, it becomes somewhat subjective if, in fact, he believes that the state didn't know and that she never mentioned it before. Now the judge has to look at that information and see what effect it has on the case, which then becomes a subjective determination by the judge, which is why I think he asked for their strategy and how badly it's affected.
Yeah, I 100% agree with both of you. The subjectivity, definitely the court has enormous discretion when making the decision as to whether or not Brady and or any of its progeny apply. The subjectivity issue is really with the prosecutor. And we heard some of this from her earlier when she said, well, you know, we had a lot of other evidence that was like this and it really isn't that big a deal. They already knew there was somebody in the area with a gun and so on and so on. And that's what's out of bounds. She can't dictate. Her mindset can't dictate the outcome here. That is objective. If there was a violation, there was a violation. The judge, however, certainly has broad discretion, and his questioning, in my opinion, tend to lead towards a harsh consequence for the prosecuting attorney.
Yeah, I would have
as Maria said, you can't unring this bell.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I thought the questioning certainly seemed to lean in that direction. All right, Marie, Jamie, stand by. Right now, I want you guys to focus on that camera. We're about 20 minutes away from those arguments taking place. Again, this could really blow this whole trial up. But while we wait for court to get underway, we're going to recap some key moments from opening statements in that trial against Adrian Gonzalez. So keep it here on Court TV, the front row seat to justice.
School shooting that broke hearts around the country and broke trust with law enforcement.
Now, the officer sworn to protect those students faces a jury.
The Uvalde school massacre trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, new developments in the murders of Rob and Michele Reiner. We'll show you everything you may have missed as we preview what is next.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan. Tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.